The notification tone split the silence of Evelyn Miller's immaculate kitchen like a knife. Just a simple chime, nothing special, nothing that should have made her stomach drop the way it did. She placed her coffee mug carefully on the marble countertop, wiping her hands methodically on a dish towel before reaching for her phone. Unknown number. Her thumb hovered over the screen for a moment before swiping to open the message. I don't know how to say this, but I think we need to talk about your husband, Daniel. Evelyn's breath caught. Below the text was a photo. Daniel laughing, his arm draped casually around a woman Evelyn had never seen before. The woman's face was partially obscured, turned away from the camera, but there was something intimate in their posture that made Evelyn's chest tighten. A second message appeared. I'm sorry. I just found out he's married. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Evelyn stared at the screen, her reflection a ghostly overlay on the messages. The woman she saw looked nothing like herself, nothing like the composed, confident art gallery director she'd been just moments ago. This woman looked haunted. The phone slipped from her fingers, clattering onto the countertop as the third message came through. I have proof. A lot of proof. He's been lying to both of us, 3 months earlier. You're working late again? Evelyn asked, phone pressed between her ear and shoulder as she finalized the layout for the upcoming exhibition. The gallery was silent this time of evening, just the way she liked it. All the interns and assistants gone, leaving her alone with the art and her thoughts. Daniel's sigh crackled through the speaker. The Fletcher account is a mess. Mason completely dropped the ball, and now I'm the one who has to fix it. She penciled in a note on her diagram. That's the 3rd time this week. I know. I'm sorry, Ev. This is why they made me partner, right? To handle the disasters. There was weariness in his voice, but also something else. A tightness she couldn't quite place. Will you be home for dinner at least? Probably not. Don't wait up. A pause. Love you. Love you too, she said, but he had already hung up. Evelyn placed her phone down and stared at the exhibition layout without seeing it. They'd been married for 7 years. Good years, mostly. They'd built a life together. A renovated brownstone in Brooklyn, successful careers, a circle of friends who envied their seemingly perfect partnership. Daniel had been supportive when she'd made the leap from curator to gallery director 3 years ago. She'd been his rock through the grueling push to make partner at his law firm, but lately, there was a distance growing between them. Little things, dinners alone, conversations that stayed on the surface, a coldness in their bed that had nothing to do with the approaching winter. She told herself it was just the natural ebb and flow of a long-term relationship. They were both busy, ambitious people. This was temporary. Just a phase. Across town, in a dimly lit cocktail bar with velvet booths and crystal glasses, Daniel Miller loosened his tie and ordered another whiskey. Tough day? Asked the bartender, a man with sleeve tattoos and a carefully groomed beard. Tough month, Daniel replied, running a hand through his dark hair. At 42, he still had the lean build and easy confidence that had made him popular in law school, though new lines had begun to appear at the corners of his eyes. His phone buzzed. An email from Mason about the Fletcher account. The account that was actually running smoothly, despite what he'd told Evelyn. He silenced the phone and slid it into his pocket. The bartender placed the whiskey in front of him. Waiting for someone? Daniel checked his watch. Yes, she's running late. As if on cue, the door opened, bringing with it a gust of cool autumn air and Olivia Chen. She paused in the doorway, scanning the room before her eyes found Daniel. Her face lit up with a smile as she navigated through the after-work crowd. Olivia was 34, with a confidence that radiated from her as she moved. A tech executive who had climbed the corporate ladder with remarkable speed. She approached relationships with the same directness she approached everything else in life. Sorry I'm late, she said, sliding into the booth beside him. She smelled like jasmine and something spicier beneath. Board meeting ran long. Daniel felt the familiar quickening of his pulse as she pressed a kiss to his cheek. Worth the wait, he said, signaling the bartender for her usual gin and tonic. They had met at a charity gala 4 months ago. Evelyn had been in Los Angeles, overseeing the installation of a traveling exhibition. Olivia had approached him at the bar, asked him about the scotch he was drinking, and somehow they'd ended up talking until the event staff began breaking down tables around them. It was supposed to be one night. A mistake, something to bury and forget. But then she'd texted the next day and he'd responded. Coffee had turned into dinner, dinner into more nights. Each time he told himself it would be the last. Each time he couldn't bring himself to end it. You seem distracted, Olivia said now, her hand finding his under the table. Just work, he lied. He'd been lying so much lately it was becoming second nature. She studied him for a moment, her dark eyes probing. Are you sure that's all it is? For a brief, terrifying second, he thought about telling her everything, about Evelyn, about their marriage, about the web of deception he'd been spinning for months. Instead, he squeezed her hand and smiled. I'm sure. Tell me about your day. As she began to speak, animated and engaging as always, Daniel pushed away the guilt that had become his constant companion. Olivia's apartment was a sleek, modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was nothing like the warm, art-filled brownstone he shared with Evelyn. There was something liberating about that, being in a place that held no echoes of his real life. Stay the night, Olivia murmured, her head on his chest, fingers tracing patterns on his skin. You know I can't. She propped herself up on one elbow, her long black hair falling in a curtain around her face. Why not? You've done it before. I have an early meeting tomorrow. Another lie to add to the pile. With Mason? There was something pointed in her tone. Daniel froze. What do you mean? Nothing. Just that you talk about him a lot. The Fletcher account. Late nights at the office. She sat up, pulling the sheet with her. It's fine. I understand the demands of your job. He sat up too, suddenly wary. Where is this coming from? Olivia was quiet for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she shook her head. Nowhere. I'm being silly. She leaned in and kissed him softly. Go home to your empty apartment, Daniel. I'll see you tomorrow night? He nodded, relief washing over him. Tomorrow night. As he dressed and gathered his things, Olivia watched him from the bed, her face partially hidden in shadow. If he had looked more closely, he might have noticed the determination in her eyes, the slight tension in her jaw. But he was too caught up in his own deception to see the suspicion taking root in hers. Evelyn was still awake when he came home, sitting in the dark of their living room with a glass of wine. Jesus. Ev, you scared me, he said, flicking on a lamp. I thought you'd be asleep. She looked up at him, her face pale in the sudden light. Couldn't sleep. Everything okay? He set down his briefcase, trying to ignore the way her eyes followed him, searching. Just thinking about the Harrington opening next week. There's still so much to do. She took a sip of wine. How was your night? Fix the Fletcher disaster? Daniel felt a flicker of panic. Had she somehow found out? Before remembering his own lie. As much as I could for now. Mason really screwed this one up. Poor Mason, Evelyn said with a small smile. Always taking the blame. What's that supposed to mean? She shrugged, setting down her wineglass. Nothing. He just seems like the convenient scapegoat. Every time something goes wrong at the firm, it's Mason's fault. Daniel loosened his tie. That's because he's incompetent. If he's so incompetent, why keep him on? Office politics. His father was one of the founding partners. Daniel moved toward the stairs, desperate to end this conversation. I'm going to shower. Daniel. Her voice stopped him on the first step. Is everything okay? With us, I mean? He turned back to her, forcing a smile. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? I don't know. You tell me. For a moment, they just looked at each other across the room, the distance between them seeming much greater than a few feet of hardwood floor. We're fine, Ev, he said finally. Just busy? It'll calm down soon. She nodded but didn't seem convinced. Okay, good night. Good night. As he climbed the stairs, Daniel didn't see Evelyn pick up her phone. Didn't see her scroll to the call log and stare at the outgoing call to his office from earlier that evening. a call that had been answered by the night security guard, who had confirmed that no one from the firm was working late. Certainly not Daniel Miller. The following weeks fell into a pattern. Daniel divided his time between his marriage and his affair with increasingly elaborate lies. Evelyn's suspicions grew, but she kept them to herself, watching and waiting, gathering evidence like exhibits for a silent case she was building. Olivia, meanwhile, began to notice inconsistencies in Daniel's stories. The mysterious phone calls he would take in another room, the way he never invited her to his apartment, how he was always unavailable on weekends. One evening, as Daniel showered in her bathroom, Olivia did something she'd been considering for weeks. She looked through his phone. It was locked, of course, but she'd seen him enter the code enough times to have memorized it. What she found made her stomach twist. Multiple references to Ev in his text messages. Calendar entries for anniversaries and events that he'd claimed were work functions. And finally, buried in his photos, a picture of Daniel with a woman, beautiful, with auburn hair and intelligent eyes, standing in front of what was clearly their home, his arm around her waist, both of them smiling. When Daniel emerged from the bathroom, Olivia was sitting on the edge of the bed, his phone in her hand. "Who is she?" Olivia asked, her voice eerily calm. Daniel froze, water dripping from his hair onto the hardwood floor. "Olivia, I can explain." "Don't," she held up a hand. "Just tell me who she is." He sat down heavily beside her, the towel wrapped around his waist. "Her name is Evelyn. She's my wife." The word hung in the air between them, heavy and damning. "Your wife," Olivia repeated, the words like glass in her mouth. "You're married?" "Yes. For how long?" 7 years. Olivia laughed, a hollow sound. 7 years. And what was I? A distraction? A midlife crisis? It wasn't like that. What we have is real. What we have is a lie. She stood up, pacing the room. All those nights you couldn't stay over, all those weekends you were working, you were with her. "Olivia, please. Does she know about me?" Daniel shook his head. "No, she doesn't." Olivia stopped pacing and looked at him, really looked at him. The man she thought she knew, now revealed as someone else entirely. "Get out. Let me explain, please. There's nothing to explain. You're married. You lied to me for months." Her voice cracked slightly. "Just get your things and go." Daniel dressed in silence, the weight of what he'd done pressing down on him. As he reached for his jacket, Olivia spoke again. "Does she deserve this? Your wife?" The question caught him off guard. "No, Evelyn is... she's a good person." "Then she deserves to know the truth." Olivia's voice was steel. "If you don't tell her, I will." "You wouldn't. Try me." Daniel stared at her, seeing the determination in her eyes. "I'll tell her. I just need some time." "You have 1 week," Olivia said. "After that, I'm contacting her myself." The week passed in a blur of anxiety and dread for Daniel. Every moment with Evelyn felt like walking on broken glass. Each smile she gave him, each casual touch a reminder of his betrayal. He drafted confession speeches in his head, but could never find the right moment. The right words. Evelyn noticed his distraction. The way he jumped whenever his phone buzzed, how he would stare into space during dinner. She assumed it was related to whatever or whoever had been pulling him away from their marriage for months. Her own investigation had yielded little concrete, evidence beyond the night security guard's confirmation that Daniel hadn't been at the office when he claimed to be on. The 6th day after his confrontation with Olivia, Daniel woke up determined. Today was the day he would tell Evelyn everything. He would beg for forgiveness, suggest counseling, do whatever it took to save their marriage. The thought of losing Evelyn, of destroying everything they'd built together, was suddenly unbearable. But as he dressed for work, his phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. "I gave you a chance to come clean. Time's up." Daniel's blood ran cold. He called Olivia immediately, but the call went straight to voicemail. He tried again and again with the same result. In a panic, he texted, "Please don't do this. I'm telling her today. I swear." No response. He called the office, claiming a family emergency, and rushed downstairs to find Evelyn already gone for the day. Her first appointment at the gallery was at 9 a.m. She would have left over an hour ago. Daniel grabbed his keys and headed for the door, determined to reach her before Olivia could. But as he pulled open the front door, he nearly collided with Evelyn herself, standing on the doorstep with her key raised. "Ev, what are you doing home?" Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. "I forgot some paperwork." She stepped past him into the house. "What are you doing home?" He faltered, watching as she moved to her office with quick, purposeful strides. "I wasn't feeling well." She didn't respond, disappearing into her office. When she emerged a moment later with a folder, her expression was unreadable. "Evelyn, we need to talk." "Now? I have to get back to the gallery. The Harrington opening is tonight." She moved toward the door. "It's important." He reached for her arm, but she sidestepped him. "More important than the biggest exhibition of my career?" There was an edge to her voice he'd never heard before. "Whatever it is, it can wait until tonight." Before he could protest further, she was gone, the door closing firmly behind her. Daniel stood in the empty foyer, his heart pounding. He tried Olivia again. Still no answer. With growing desperation, he grabbed his jacket and headed out, determined to find Evelyn at the gallery. But traffic was a nightmare, and by the time he arrived, the gallery was buzzing with the pre-opening preparations. Interns scurried around with clipboards, caterers set up elegant hors d'oeuvre stations, and Evelyn was nowhere to be seen. "Have you seen Evelyn?" He asked one of the gallery assistants, a young woman with blue-tipped hair. "She's in her office with a visitor," the assistant said. "She left strict instructions not to be disturbed." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Who's the visitor?" The assistant shrugged. "I don't know. Asian woman, very stylish. Showed up about 20 minutes ago." Daniel didn't wait to hear more. He strode through the gallery, ignoring the protests of the staff, until he reached Evelyn's office. Through the glass wall, he could see them, Evelyn and Olivia sitting across from each other, deep in conversation. On the desk between them was Evelyn's phone, displaying what looked like a series of photographs. He pushed open the door without knocking. Both women looked up, their expressions like mirrors of betrayal and hurt. "Daniel," Evelyn said, her voice remarkably steady, "I was just meeting your girlfriend. Olivia, right?" She gestured to her phone. "She's been showing me some very interesting pictures. Texts, too." She picked up the phone and read aloud. "I miss you already. Last night was incredible." Her eyes flicked up to meet his. "That was from Tuesday. We had dinner with my parents on Tuesday, remember? You left early because of a client emergency." Daniel felt like the floor was tilting beneath his feet. "Evelyn, please. Let me explain." "Explain what?" she asked, rising to her feet. "How you've been cheating on me for months? How every late night at the office was actually spent with her? How you've lied to my face day after day? I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "They never do," Olivia said, her voice cold. Evelyn turned to her. "And you? You knew he was married?" "Not until a week ago," Olivia replied. "I found a photo of you two in his phone. When I confronted him, he admitted everything. And instead of walking away, you decided to blow up my life too?" There was a dangerous calm in Evelyn's voice. "You deserve to know the truth," Olivia said. "I wish someone had told me sooner." "How noble of you." Evelyn turned back to Daniel, her composure beginning to crack. 7 years, Daniel. 7 years of building a life together, and you threw it all away for what? Some excitement? A ego boost? "It wasn't like that," Daniel protested. "I was going to tell you everything today, I swear. Only because she forced your hand." Evelyn's voice rose. "If she hadn't threatened to expose you, would you ever have told me?" Daniel had no answer for that. Evelyn took a deep breath, visibly pulling herself back together. "I have an opening in 3 hours. 200 people will be walking through those doors, expecting to see the composed, professional gallery director they all know, not a woman whose marriage just imploded." She pointed to the door. "Both of you get out now! Ev, please, out!" The word exploded from her. a raw sound of pain that seemed to physically push him back. Daniel looked from Evelyn to Olivia, trapped between the two women he had deceived. Finally, he turned and walked out, Olivia following a moment later. In the hallway outside Evelyn's office, they stood in awkward silence. "I hope you're happy," Daniel said bitterly. Olivia looked at him with contempt. "Do I look happy? You ruined everything, Daniel, not me." With that, she walked away, leaving Daniel alone in the busy gallery, surrounded by people preparing for a celebration while his world collapsed around him. The Harrington opening was a triumph. The gallery hummed with the city's art elite, champagne flowed freely, and the artist himself was moved to tears by the reception of his work. Through it all, Evelyn moved with grace and professionalism, her smile never faltering, her voice never betraying the turmoil within. No one would have guessed that just hours earlier, she had learned that her marriage was a lie. After the last guest departed and the staff began cleaning up, Evelyn sat alone in her office, staring at the wall of congratulatory texts lighting up her phone. Among them were 6 messages from Daniel, each more desperate than the last, culminating in, "I'm at home. Please come back so we can talk. I love you." She laughed bitterly at those last 3 words. Love. What did Daniel know about love? Love wasn't betrayal. Love wasn't lies. Love wasn't making a fool of the person who trusted you most. With deliberate calm, she gathered her things and called a car. Not to take her home. She couldn't face the brownstone tonight, with all its memories and Daniel waiting inside, but to her sister Claire's apartment in Chelsea. Claire opened the door in her pajamas, took one look at Evelyn's face and pulled her into a fierce hug. "What happened?" "Daniel's been cheating on me," Evelyn said, the words still strange in her mouth. "For months." "That son of a bitch." Claire led her to the couch, poured her a glass of wine, and listened as Evelyn recounted the day's events. "And the worst part," Evelyn concluded, "is that I suspected something was wrong. For weeks. But I didn't want to believe it, so I ignored the signs." "This is not your fault," Claire said firmly. "None of it. I know that. Logically, I know that. But I keep thinking about all the times he lied to my face, and I just accepted it." Evelyn took a long drink of wine. "Do you know what he said when I confronted him? I didn't mean for this to happen." As if it was something that just happened to him, like bad weather or a flat tire. "What are you going to do?" Evelyn stared into her wine glass. "I don't know yet. But I can't go home tonight. I can't look at him." "You'll stay here as long as you need." Claire squeezed her hand. "And whatever you decide to do, I've got your back." Daniel paced the brownstone like a caged animal, checking his phone every few minutes for a response from Evelyn. By midnight, he had to accept she wasn't coming home. He called her sister, only to have Claire answer with a curt, "She's safe, she's staying with me, and she doesn't want to talk to you," before hanging up. He sat heavily on the couch, head in his hands. How had everything fallen apart so quickly? Just this morning, he'd had a wife and a girlfriend. Now he had neither, and the crushing weight of his own actions was suffocating him. His phone rang, startling him. "Evelyn?" But it was Olivia's name on the screen. "What do you want?" he answered, to apologize. Olivia's voice was subdued. "I shouldn't have ambushed her like that at her workplace right before a big event. It was cruel." "Yes, it was. But you should have told her, Daniel. As soon as I found out, you should have gone straight home and told her the truth." Daniel sighed. "I know. I'm leaving town for a while," Olivia continued. "Taking some time to clear my head. I needed you to know that despite everything, what I felt for you was real." "It was real for me too," he admitted. "But Evelyn is my wife. I love her. I always have." "Then you should have never started this with me." There was a finality in her voice. "Goodbye, Daniel." The line went dead, and Daniel was alone again with the wreckage of his choices. For 3 days, Evelyn stayed with Claire, ignoring Daniel's increasingly frantic calls and texts. She went to work, She ate, she slept, but it all felt mechanical, as if she were moving through someone else's life. On the fourth day, she decided it was time. Not to forgive, she wasn't ready for that, might never be, but to confront. To look her husband in the eye and decide what was left of their marriage, if anything. She texted him from the car. "I'm coming home." "Be there in 20 minutes. His response was immediate. "I'll be waiting." "Thank you." The brownstone looked exactly the same as when she'd left it. Same carefully curated art on the walls, same vintage Turkish rug in the foyer, same crystal bowl where they dropped their keys. It was disorienting, this sameness, when everything else had changed so fundamentally. Daniel was waiting in the living room, unshaven and haggard. He stood when she entered but didn't approach her. "Thank you for coming," he said. Evelyn set down her bag, keeping the coffee table between them. "I'm here to talk, not to reconcile. I need you to understand that." He nodded. "I understand. How long?" she asked, the question that had been burning in her mind for days. 4 months. Evelyn absorbed this. 4 months of lies, of betrayal, of making her doubt her own instincts. And if she hadn't told me, how long would it have continued? Daniel looked away. "I don't know. Were you planning to leave me for her?" "No, never. Evelyn, you have to believe me. I never intended to hurt me, to destroy our marriage, to humiliate me." Her voice rose. "What exactly didn't you intend, Daniel?" "Any of it." "All of it!" He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "It just happened. Affairs don't just happen. You made a choice. Every time you lied about working late, every time you slept with her, every time you came home to me and pretended everything was normal. Those were all choices." Daniel sank onto the couch, defeated. "You're right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry you did it or sorry you got caught?" "Both," he admitted. "I never wanted to hurt you. But I also never wanted you to find out like this." Evelyn laughed bitterly. "Is there a good way to find out your husband is cheating on you?" "No, I suppose not." He looked up at her, his eyes red-rimmed. "What can I do, Ev? Tell me what I can do to fix this." "I don't know if it can be fixed." She moved to the window, looking out at the street below, at the normal life continuing outside while hers had shattered. "Do you love her?" The question hung in the air between them. "I thought I did," Daniel said finally. "But these past few days without you? I realize that what I feel for her is nothing compared to what I feel for you. You're my wife, Evelyn. My partner. My best friend. Don't." She turned to face him. "Don't use our history against me. Don't weaponize my love for you. That's not what I'm trying to do. Isn't it? You're trying to remind me of everything we've built together, everything I stand to lose if I walk away, as if I'm not already painfully aware." She took a deep breath. "Let me ask you something else. If Olivia hadn't discovered you were married, if she hadn't threatened to tell me, would you ever have ended it?" Daniel was silent for a long moment. "I want to say yes, but I honestly don't know." At least he was being truthful now. "And is she the first?" "Yes, God, yes." "There has never been anyone else, Evelyn, I swear." She studied him, trying to see past her anger and hurt to the man she had loved for so long. "I need time, Daniel. I need space to think, to decide what I want, whatever you need. I'll stay at a hotel. No, this is still my home too. We'll both stay but in separate rooms." She picked up her bag. "And Daniel? Don't mistake my willingness to talk for forgiveness. I'm not there yet. I may never be." He nodded, a flicker of hope crossing his face despite her warning. "I understand. And Ev, thank you for coming back, for giving me a chance to try to make this right." She didn't respond, just turned and headed upstairs to what had once been their guest room, closing the door firmly behind her. The next few weeks were a delicate dance of coexistence. Daniel and Evelyn moved around each other carefully, their conversations limited to practicalities: who would cook dinner, when they needed groceries, whether the heating was working properly in the upstairs bathroom. Daniel slept in their bedroom, Evelyn in the guest room. He went to work, came directly home, made no attempt to hide his whereabouts or his communications. Complete transparency, he told her. Whatever she needed to start rebuilding trust. Evelyn watched him with wary eyes, neither accepting nor rejecting his attempts at reconciliation. She suggested they try counseling. He agreed immediately. Their first session was awkward, painful, but necessary. The therapist, Dr. Mishra, led them through exercises designed to express their feelings without accusation or defensiveness. "I feel betrayed," Evelyn said, her voice steady. "Not just by the affair, but by the lies. By how easily he lied to me day after day." "I understand that," Daniel replied. "And I hate that I caused you this pain. I hate that I became someone who could do that." Dr. Mara nodded. "Daniel, can you tell Evelyn why you think you had the affair?" Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "I've been thinking about that a lot. I think I was afraid." "Of what?" Evelyn asked. "Of us becoming distant. Of losing the spark. Work was stressful. You were consumed with the gallery expansion, and it felt like we were drifting apart. Olivia made me feel seen, desired." He looked directly at Evelyn. "But instead of talking to you about my fears, I took the coward's way out." Evelyn absorbed this. "Why didn't you talk to me?" "Because I didn't want to burden you. You had your own stress, your own pressures, and I was supposed to be the strong one, the one who had it all together." "That's not fair, to me or to you," Evelyn said. "Marriage isn't about being perfect all the time. It's about being vulnerable with each other." Dr. Mara smiled slightly. "That's very insightful, Evelyn. Daniel, how does that make you feel?" "Ashamed," he admitted. "Because she's right. I wasn't being honest about my needs, and then I punished her for not meeting needs I never expressed." They left that first session emotionally drained, but with a fragile sense of progress. In the car on the way home, Daniel ventured, "Do you think we'll be okay?" Evelyn looked out the window at the city passing by. "I don't know. But I think we're at least facing in the right direction now." Weeks turned into months. The hurt didn't disappear, but it became less acute. The counseling sessions continued. They began to rebuild, one honest conversation at a time. Evelyn found herself watching Daniel closely, not out of suspicion anymore, but trying to rediscover the man she had married. He seemed different somehow, more present, more willing to be vulnerable. She wondered if this was who he had always been, beneath the confident lawyer exterior she had grown so accustomed to. One evening in early spring, almost 6 months after the day Olivia had walked into the gallery, they sat together on their back patio, sharing a bottle of wine. The night was warm for March, the first hint of spring in the air. "I got an email from Olivia today," Daniel said, breaking the comfortable silence. Evelyn tensed slightly. "Oh, she's engaged, moving to Singapore with her fiancé. How do you feel about that?" Daniel considered the question. Happy for her, I suppose. And relieved that she's found someone who can give her what she deserves: honesty, commitment. He took a sip of wine. "I never could have given her that, because my heart was always here. Even when I was too blind to see it." Evelyn studied him over the rim of her glass. "Do you ever regret it?" "Not the affair, I know you regret that. But us, staying, trying to fix what broke. Never." His answer was immediate. "These past months have been the hardest of my life, but also the most honest. I feel like I know you, really know you, in a way I never did before. And I like the person I'm becoming because of it." He reached across the table, his fingers stopping just short of hers. "What about you? Any regrets?" Evelyn looked down at his hand so close to hers. Slowly, deliberately, she closed the distance, her fingers touching his. "There are days when I wonder if it would have been easier to walk away. To start over with someone new, someone who hadn't hurt me." Daniel's face fell, but he nodded in acceptance. "But then," she continued, "I think about all we've built together. Not just the house or our careers, but this connection, this understanding, and I think that maybe the hard path was the right one, for us at least." "Does that mean—" Hope flickered in his eyes. "It means I'm choosing us, Daniel. Not the old us. We can never go back to that. But this new us, the one we're building together." She squeezed his hand. "It means I forgive you." The words hung in the air between them, momentous and healing. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "Probably not," she agreed with a small smile. "But forgiveness isn't about what's deserved. It's about what's chosen, and I choose to forgive you. I choose us." He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss against her knuckles. "I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret that choice." Later that night, for the first time in 6 months, Evelyn moved her things back into their bedroom. As they lay together in the darkness, Daniel whispered, "I love you, Ev. Always have. Always will." She turned to face him, her hand finding his cheek. "I love you too. But Daniel, if you ever lie to me again, about anything, we're done. No more chances. No more forgiveness." "I understand," he said solemnly. "Complete honesty always. I promise." And in that promise, in that moment of absolute clarity between them, Evelyn felt something she hadn't expected to feel again. Hope. Not for the perfect marriage they'd pretended to have before, but for something real, something hard-won and honest. Sometimes, she reflected as she drifted toward sleep, it takes nearly losing everything to discover what truly matters. And sometimes, from the ashes of betrayal, something stronger and more genuine can rise. 3 years later, at the opening of Evelyn's new gallery in Manhattan, a young artist approached her, champagne in hand. "I heard about this place from Olivia Chen," the artist said. "She mentioned you were an old friend." Evelyn smiled, looking across the room to where Daniel stood, engaged in conversation with a collector. "Did she? How is Olivia? Still in Singapore?" "Yes, with her husband and new baby. She's doing really well." "I'm glad to hear it," Evelyn said, and found that she genuinely meant it. Later, she told Daniel about the encounter. He listened thoughtfully, then said, "It's strange how life works out, isn't it? If she hadn't sent you those messages that day, we might still be living a lie," Evelyn finished. "Funny how sometimes the things that hurt us the most are the very things that save us." Daniel nodded, taking her hand. "I'm grateful every day that you were brave enough to stay and fight for us. That you saw something worth saving, even when I'd nearly destroyed it." Evelyn leaned into him, comfortable in the hard-won intimacy they now shared. "Some things break so they can be rebuilt stronger," she said simply. "We're proof of that." As they moved through the crowded gallery, greeting guests and celebrating her success, Evelyn reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The pain had been real, the betrayal devastating. But from that broken place had emerged a marriage more honest, more resilient, and ultimately more fulfilling than the seemingly perfect one they'd had before. Not everyone would understand their choice to rebuild rather than walk away. Not everyone would see the value in the difficult, painful work of reconciliation. But standing here now, with the man who had hurt her and then dedicated himself to healing that hurt, Evelyn knew they had made the right decision. For them, at least, forgiveness had been the beginning, not the end of their story, and that, she decided, was a story worth telling.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.